Hello, genealogist. It's Craig again from Just Genealogy, where we are converting people doing genealogy into genealogists day by day. Maybe by the 1700th time I say that, I'll have it down pat. So today I want to talk to you about a book and a book sale. Of course, it's Sunday. So the book I want to talk to you about is Genealogical Abstracts of the Revolutionary War Veterans Scrip Act of 1852. Notice that the word scrip does not have a T after it. Neither do any of the other scrip acts. So this is a set of records which are abstracted from the Bureau of Land Management, Record Group 49. They're at the National Archives and Records Administration. The author, Margie Brown, a long time ago, in the 90s probably, 1990, maybe 89, went to the National Archives and asked John Butler what she could do to be helpful. What set of records should she abstract to make the world a better place? And he told her that she should work on these records. He was then the chief of the reference branch of the National Archives in Suitland, Maryland at that time. So the genealogical information taken from the records relating to Revolutionary War Scrip Act of 1852, Record Group 49, Bureau of Land Management, were held at the Suitland branch of the National Archives until they moved to Archives 2 in College Park when it was built. So in January of 1781, by legislative act, Virginia gave all of its desire to have land north of the Ohio River, because it claimed it, to the national government, to the federal government, with the concept that Congress would then fulfill all of Virginia's bounty land requirements that they would have in the future. And Congress in 1783, by an act of 13 September 1783, agreed to accept that condition. The writer doesn't really go into what was going on and all that kind of stuff, but I've got a couple of books that will be helpful in that regard. One is History of Public Land Development, written for the Public Land Review Commission by Paul W. Gates. Now, I don't have that one, but I will soon because I'm going to go look for it. I thought I did, but it turns out I have a similar book, A History of the Public Land Policies, with a foreword by Paul W. Gates. Not quite the same thing. This book is by Hibbard, and I found it to be extremely useful in understanding bounty land laws, public land, and what's going on. Another book that I found very useful is 60 Million Acres, American Veterans and Public Lands Before the Civil War by Oberle. So these two books are by far, in my mind, they make up half my land library, not counting Christine Rose's book on military bounty land. And I refer to those two books all the time. And Margie Brown is probably asking you to do pretty much the same thing, because her job was to abstract the records. And the files covered a multitude of problem warrants, dual claims, interference, proof of a higher military rank, death of the veteran in battle, lost or misplaced warrants, failure to survey, etc. And all of that could affect the amount of scrip that the person might receive. Now, these claimants were not the soldiers themselves, because this is 1852. These are heirs of those veterans. So in many cases, many of these veterans were long dead, but they hadn't exercised their right to their bounty land. So this was an opportunity for Virginians to exercise that right. So in using this, what you'll find in each entry is an application number, and these are the key to how to access the files. The problem is that we're so used to dealing with land from the perspective of the 3-field warrant, where it's the act, number of acres, and the certificate number. or maybe it's the reverse of that. I never keep it straight. But when I look at it, I know what it means. I always look in the center to make sure it says at least 160, because I know if it doesn't, it's likely I need to be looking for more land. But anyway, these Scrip Act materials are found in entry 4 of Record 49, and they don't have that numbering system. They have an application number. So when somebody says, well, what's the number? You remind them that these are different in entry 4. And oh, by the way, how to use this information is all in the book, so you don't necessarily have to remember this. But entry 4, Scrip Act of 1852, they're by application number only. So there are several lists of veterans in the book. Some are covered and some are not. And she provides a list of which veterans are covered. There are something like 1,600 plus veterans who are covered. There are claimants from the Virginia State Line, the Virginia Continental Line, the Virginia State Navy, the Georgia Continental Line, and the Continental Navy. Now, the reason the Georgia Continental Line is here is because so many of the individual soldiers in the Georgia Continental Line were actually from Virginia and residents of Virginia after the war. So one of the reasons why some people aren't included is she did not include those individuals that belonged to Clark's regiment in the West. So if we look, the joy of this is, let me just go to application number 1. Application number 1 has 2 sets of papers, application 1180 and 1236. It's for Thomas Keith, who was a captain in the Continental Line. There are court documents substantiating what was required by the law, which was proof of service and proof of heirship, from Hinds County, Mississippi Court, 6 April 1859, Fauquier County, Virginia Court, 28 September 1848, and Fauquier County, Virginia Will, 25 November 1844. Now, this, in this specific case, isn't an issue because Fauquier County in Virginia is not a Byrne County, but there are many Byrne counties in Virginia that, in fact, have wills that are identified in these materials and other probate matters, of course. So what it says is that Thomas Keith served as a captain of a commissary in the troop of Captain John Clinton, his brother-in-law, they having married sisters. Thomas married Judith Blackwell, 23 May 1775. He died in Georgia in 1805 while living with his grandson, Marshall. And then it goes on further to provide a genealogy that lists Thomas Keith and 6 of his children, and then goes a further generation down to list his grandchildren. So Thomas Keith, died 1805, married Judith Blackwell and had issue Isham Keith. Harriet Keith, widow of William Schenker. Mary J. Keith, married James Payne. Susan G. Keith died before 1848, married David James, and had a son, John F. James. James Keith died circa 1844, testate in Fauquier County, and his issue was Thomas Keith in Georgia, Marshall Keith in Georgia, Fanny Keith, Mary P. Keith. She received silver spoons from the estate of Saunders Moore. What that has to do with anything, I don't know, but it's nice to know. Susan G. Keith, Judith S. Keith, Harriet S. Keith, Virginia Keith, Richie R. Keith, and Lucy S. Keith. And then Tarleton Keith died before 1848 in Georgia. Issue, Tarleton Keith. Harriet Keith died circa 1848, married William Vance in Edgefield, South Carolina. Issue was George Vance and Mary Vance, who married Pleasant Thurman in Hinds County, Mississippi, 1859. This explains why there's court documents from Hinds County, Mississippi in the file. And Judith P. Keith married Isaac Hibbler, and they live in Bourbon County, Kentucky. Included in the file are dispositions of Joseph Chilton, son of Captain John Chilton, who was a Revolutionary War soldier. John Chilton married Lydia, sister of Judith Blackwell Keith, Richard Roper, a Revolutionary War soldier, and Mark Chilton. All of the above were residents of Fauquier and Culpeper County, except those otherwise noted. So that's what exists on application number 1. And as you can see, it is rich in genealogical data. And plus, it provides you the opportunity, if you did not have the will of someone because it was a Bern County and it was there, this might be the place to find it. So let's just go to another place. George Gibson was a colonel in the Virginia State Line. Gibson's regiment would eventually be termed Continental by the U.S. Court of Claims. He had applications 776, 777, 822, and 856. There were documents from the Hamilton County Northwest Territory. It was a will dated 12 November 1791 to 10 January 1792. There was a Cumberland County, Pennsylvania will dated 17 January 1852 to 9 May 1853, and a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania will 15 November 1802 to 26 September 1817. I would imagine that those dates are when it was done and when it was probated. So George Gibson died circa 1792, testate in the Northwest Territory, living widow Anne, who died circa 1799, intestate. He commanded the 2nd Virginia state line, and he was formerly of Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. His issue was Francis West Gibson, George Patrick Henry Gibson, William Chisney Gibson, Matthias John Bannister Gibson, who died circa 1853, married Sarah, Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, and had Margaretta Gibson, Annie Gibson, Sarah, Sally Gibson, received a portrait of Uncle General Gibson in her father's will, John Bannister Gibson, and George Gibson. The Honorable Matthias John Bannister Gibson was Chief Justice of the United States. George Gibson also bequeathed part of his estate to a nephew, Robert Callender, the son of his sister Frances Gibson Callender Reed. Frances died in 1830 in Loudoun County, Virginia. Frances Gibson died in 1830, married first Callender and second Reed. The issue by Callender was Robert Callender died circa 1815, testate Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Married Harriet Butler without issue. Catherine Callender died after 1802, married William Nolan of Loudoun County, Virginia. Their issue was Frances Nolan, the widow of Lewis Berkeley, Fenton Nolan, Thomas Nolan, William Henry Nolan, Robert Callender Nolan. And then Mary Callender married Thompson and had issue Robert Thompson and Frances Thompson. And there are dispositions of William Broadus, a Revolutionary War soldier, and Churchill Gibbs, a Revolutionary War soldier. Now that Nolan family, William Nolan, in Loudoun County, I'm sure that is a relative of John Nolan, who was the ferry keeper at Nolan's Ferry in northern Loudoun County. I only want to do one more of these because I don't want to bore you with reading to you, but I can't memorize the content of this, and it's so rich. So there's the application of Charles Lee, Major General Continental Line. You may remember Charles Lee. He was number 2 behind Washington until he irritated Washington a good bit. So Charles Lee was a soldier of fortune. Actually, he was a retired British officer, a native of England who came to the colonies at the time of General Braddock, which means he came during the French and Indian War. He was the 2nd major general appointed in the Continental Line and coveted the command of General Washington, well known to all of us who know anything about that. He was relieved of command and suspended 12 months for insubordination. That would be, I believe, following the Battle of Monmouth. Following his suspension, he was reinstated, then discharged in 1782. He purchased a 5,000-acre plantation in Berkeley County, Virginia, now West Virginia, where he died testate sometime before April 15th, 1783. Charles Lee died unmarried, making bequests to Alexander White, Charles Myron Thurston, Buckner Thurston, John Mercer, Esquire of Marlborough, Virginia, Ottaway Bird, his aide, and William Steptoe, Colonel of Dumfries, Virginia. Charles Lee devised the remainder of his estate to his sister, Sidney Lee, of Fedlin, County Denbigh, England. Included is a portion of Charles Lee's will as quoted as follows, and this is why I'm sharing it with you. that I not be buried in any church or churchyard or within a mile of any Presbyterian or Anabaptist meeting house. For since I have resided in this country, I have kept so much bad company when living that I do not choose to continue it when then dead. That's enough reading for one day. I love this book. She originally published this book in hardback and did 100 copies. And 5 minutes after it was sold out, 20 people wanted it. I somehow convinced her that I should be allowed to publish it for her, and I did. So it's the genealogical abstracts of the Revolutionary War veterans, the Scrip Act of 1852. Now, why did the government do this? Because the government had promised the Virginians the land in the Virginia Military District. That's why it was created in Ohio. And by 1852, there wasn't any more land left in the Virginia military tract in Ohio. So they had to do something because they had this requirement to fill the bounty land. So this is what they did. They created an act that would allow people to come in that had not previously gotten their land to come and get their land. And then it was put anywhere out in the federal domain. That's what Scrip Acts do. Scrip Acts allow you to have access to anywhere in the federal domain. That land is, of course, available, and there's a land office. So this book, since you put up with listening to me for so long, this book costs $32 normally, and I sell it for $32 every time I sell it. But should you decide that you want this book, I will sell it to you for $10 plus $5 shipping for $15. If you make a comment below, I will send you the discount code so that you too can own a copy of Margie Brown's fantabulous book. Well, another Sunday has gone by. I'm going to make Sundays book days, I guess, is how I'm going to work it out. Probably because it's less work to do this, since I just have to talk, and I don't mind talking. If you have any questions about it, just throw something down in the comments. We now have, at this point, over 100 subscribers. I'm very happy with that, and over 500 views. We're moving right along. Tell your friends all about Just Genealogy, where we are converting people doing genealogy into genealogists day by day. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.